to another episode of HR and Payroll 2.0. I'm Pete Tiliakis, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary Julie Fernandez. And welcome, Julie.
Thanks so much, Pete. And actually, we have another guest today, so I'm super excited to introduce folks to Susan Richards. Susan, say hello and
Yay.
tell us a little about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I am the founder of Sapient Insights Group. We are a research and advisory firm, and we solve all problems HR and payroll. And we do a ton of research. We just released our annual HR technology survey. So quick plug for that. If you haven't gotten an invitation in your inbox, you'll be getting one soon. And if you participate with us, we do all kinds of fabulous reports, and we'll be releasing our results at HR Tech at a keynote session in October.
Yeah, awesome.
Awesome. Well, we have a lot to talk about, Pete. I know we're going to get to change management, but why don't we just fire off some news?
Yeah. Well, first, let me just say, so it's so good to have you, Susan. We're huge fans. We cite the report constantly. I think it's a really a benchmark in the industry as far as HR tech reports, and Stacy and team does an amazing job with that. So thank you for coming on. We've had a long relationship, and you're obviously one of the executives that I certainly admire and see as a friend and a mentor. So I'm so happy to have you coming on and sharing with us today.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to talk about change after we hear the news.
I know that's another one that we bring up a lot, change management. So I'm excited to dig into it. So
it's always the smooth and buttery guy, right?
I know.
Well,
I get excited. I get excited for our guests because I'm a fan of most of the guests we have on. I follow your podcast. I follow what you guys do. So I'm a fanboy in that way, I guess.
We love fans.
We love fans. Yes. All right. So, Julie, you want to go first? I know there's a little bit of news, and then I've been on a few events that I can give some updates on if you'd like to check that out.
Sure. So let me start with, I just wanted to give a sneak preview or a little bit of a heads up to folks that there is a major new release out. Actually, it's available with Neamo. And so
yes.
For those who don't know, Neamo is probably best known in the global payroll space. They do long tail countries. They have, a number of significant clients, large client names that you would recognize, but long tail usually means smaller populations. They have a software platform that they use to deliver, and they do deliver all their countries largely on a single platform. And that platform has just had a major new life injected into it, infused into it. And so I had a chance to see earlier today a little bit of the things that they were most excited to talk about. And I thought I would just mention one or two, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, so one of the things in the new platform that they've been working really hard on is to be able to do a draft run of payroll so that the users themselves, the client payroll folks in country who are doing payroll can run a draft payroll at any point in time, and you'll see the results. So, and actually maybe the tagline around it is infinite drafts.
Nice.
So if you think about the fact that you're in payroll and you're either entering a lot of, a whole bunch of bonuses, or you're making some action or activity. And as payroll folks, we were generally curious and want to make sure that things work right. And we don't want to really wait until, our payroll closed to be able to do that. You can actually at any point in time, as often as you'd like, run a draft run and see exactly what's happened.
Yeah, it's very much the real-time nature of what's being proliferated in payroll. And it's a blessing to the payroll leader who needs to, like you said, double check things before they can commit to them.
Yep. So very, very significantly shortening, kind of the T minus, like how many days do you need in advance to close a payroll? That's something that folks are always interested about in doing. The other thing that I'll say is they're working as well on some really cool compliance activities and some things where they have kind of complete configurability in compliance. So just a lot of new user interface. It's really nifty, and the ability to relate, for any country, the different compliance reports or the different outputs that are available, and to pretty much wholly configure who they need to go to, who needs to see them, or what the routing is going to be. It's all very, very nifty visuals. And so that was another big area that caught my attention. And maybe the third one I'll call out, because I'm sure we'll be talking about this again after you guys get a chance to look at it, is just payslip visualization, which is a kind of a table stakes, right? You really have to have that these days. But doing some really cool things in the area of payslip visualization and kind of rejiggering all of the UI so that if you don't have a lot of errors, especially in small countries, 5 clicks and payroll is run. And they're working to, continue to move that needle down to touchless.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. I've so Niamo is a great friend of the show, right? We did our live episode with them at their EBB this year. And I've been working with Niamo or partnering with them in some capacity since probably the last 7 years. And I've seen their payroll hyperloop concept come to life now, just as you have, Julie, I'm sure, with your clients. And it's the real deal. It's good stuff. And it is they're very committed to a very direct model, right? Versus the indirect approach of sort of having a lot of partners and solutions cobbled together. They are very much a direct provider who is all about building their own organic technology and service enabling capabilities. So I always love to see what they're doing. And congrats, you're a little ahead of me. I'm scheduling my demo with them a little bit later on this month. So very excited to see it.
That's awesome. I know by, within the next year or so, they're thinking they are likely to be able to move 80% or more of their clients. You can opt in. You don't have to move. You don't have to do anything if you're happy, but it's got some really cool features. And I'm pretty sure, I know we're recorded and somebody could hear this, but I don't think opting in and moving to the new platform is something that you are going to incur dollar cost for conversions or subscription bumps or anything. It's really truly bringing new features to their client base, old and new.
Very cool. Yeah, I love that. It's almost that's very much the SaaS nature of the way we update our apps in our personal lives. Why not it be that way in the business world? So very cool. Excited to see it. So yeah, I've got a couple of updates. I spent a day with the UKG team in Boston. We got to have, if you don't know, they provide the analysts with basically 2 really deep dive updates on the business and the product and everything in between. Basically in spring and in fall at their client events. So this was the spring edition, and things are going well at UKG. Right, they've just hit. I think they just went over $1 billion this most recent quarter, second quarter, which was the first in their history for a full quarter of $1 billion, and they're on their way to a goal of $5 billion by 2025. So adoption is going well. They seem to be look, they have a very unique opportunity here, right? They've got HCM technology, very powerful HCM technology. I mean, obviously, some of the most adopted workforce management capabilities, not to mention the very differentiated data set in Great Places to Work for. Don't forget, they acquired them in 2021, and a lot of their peers would have loved to have had that. I know that for a fact. And so what they've really tried to do is really be that one-stop shop for the workforce, right? And say, look, you can come here and not only tap into, great technology that can make you a great place to work, but we have the insights and the consulting and the data and the insights to bring to you and help you navigate to that leading practice. So very interesting opportunity for them there. Obviously, from a roadmap perspective, one of the things I love about UKG is they've always stayed very true to their roots. And their roots, if you know, was in the core HR, core payroll benefits, and very much I would say in the early days, an anti-ADP in some ways. But they've stayed very core to that. And I think that they're doing a lot of work to make sure that the frontline manager and the frontline worker are really empowered and enabled in as many ways as possible, and that they are the priority around, obviously, the total workforce, but certainly that they aren't forgotten, I suppose you could say. And so they do a lot of, they're putting a lot of emphasis and a lot of money and time and innovation into making the day-to-day aspects of HR and payroll much more intuitive, personalized, and certainly, driving better outcomes. And so I think you're going to see certainly a lot more generative AI. There was a lot of talk about that in their partnership with Google. They're definitely the first HCM tech firm in the marketplace. So if you're a Google customer and a UKG customer, there's a lot of benefits in that synergy there. And I think they are in fact doing a lot of co-innovation around Gen AI. But what I think is really, really refreshing, and obviously we've seen a little bit of disruption around maybe there being some drawbacks to AI getting rushed out or maybe being used and not being understood. we talked about that a little bit on one of our other shows. They are taking instead of sort of rushing out and putting something into the market, like we've seen a lot of firms sort of rush to do in the HR space, they are very, very cautious and careful and taking a calculated approach and sort of walking down to sort of solve them all versus running to solve a few right away. And I think the other thing I love about it is they're taking an incredibly intelligent approach to looking at how they can connect the points across all of their apps and where there's shared data and shared moments to surface a better experience for people that I don't know that every vendor is going to be able to enable between the HCM, the WFM, and the great places to work for data plus third-party data that they can bring in. So so look, they're really on a good path. I was happy to see payroll is still a priority. They've not left their roots. And really, I think taking a very smart and calculated approach to how they're going to use generative AI and large language models that I think are going to just be game changing for everybody. So
that's awesome.
A lot of good stuff there. Yeah, keep an eye. Okay. Also, PayCon, right? The Super Bowl of Payroll was last week in Denver. What a week it was for me personally and professionally. I was exhausted by the time I left. I did, I think, 3 hours plus of podcasting the first night I was there with Daily Pay. I did a panel for Daily Pay there where we busted some myths on earned wage access that might be holding firms back from accessing that. I had an amazing Thursday, was able to give my keynote speech. Was really proud to see that. I have to be honest, I had a lot of anxiety about this. You remember me telling you? Yeah, I was so nervous, not nervous. It wasn't nerves. It was, I speak all the time, but it was anxiety about like talking about myself and telling my career story. But I got a standing ovation. I heard it was the only one in that keynote. I don't know if that's true, so I'll take it. And I got so many people that were coming up to me afterwards saying, your message is inspiring and that, we're happy to hear that payroll can take you to new levels. So I was really happy for that. But I just want to say thank you to everybody that helped me make that possible. It was not just me up there. It was Patricia Fripp, my speech coach that they provide us. Oh my. If you want the GOAT of speaking, Patricia Fripp is it. And I would absolutely tell you if I'm actually referring her now to my C-suites that I'm working with and my strategic advisory clients to help them with their sales presentations, because she is literally otherworld, I have to tell you. And certainly the team that made the intro video for me and all of that stuff, everybody made it very, very, very comforting. And I was able to get over my anxiety and have a really good experience. So I was really, really happy to share my story. I'm glad it helped some people. And then the last day I was able to do a presentation on the now, near, and next of payroll innovation, which was really well received. And just a great event, right? We had a lot of great conversations. I was lucky enough to have a few with Niamo, for example, Vivek Khanna from Niamo. I was able to speak to a few practitioners, and unfortunately, due to the downfalls of technology, my files got corrupted, and there's some noise I can't seem to get out of these files. So if I can ever get those cleaned up and scraped up, I will put those together for an episode. But right now, those are in a triage situation where we need to figure out what happened. So
our great plans for a collage of
podcast
remote.
Now there are a couple of conversations I recorded. One is going around right now with Nick Day from JGA Recruiting, which is big in the payroll talent world. That was a fun conversation. And then I did another one with Payzar, with Mark Oliver Fiedler, the founder of Payzar, that you can also find that's floating around out there. So if you were there and we connected, thank you. And if not, I apologize. Let's try to get together at another time. But what an amazing event, right? I mean, payroll is absolutely important. It should have always been. The role is changing. The skills are shaping. And I would say fintech and innovation and all the things that you just talked about from Niamo and others are just pouring into this marketplace to help the practitioners and the leaders and the organizations get more out of payroll. So I could go on and on, but that's probably enough.
Awesome.
Yes. And look for a blog on UKG. I've got that with them right now for fact check, and that will be out soon.
I hate it that you're so much better.
Yes. And you have a new one.
At blogging than me.
You have a new one though. You have one. I saw it on Ceridian, right?
We have that was actually pointing back to this podcast, believe it or not.
Well, there you go.
Podcast, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Just because it's quicker than a blog.
That's right. We talked about. I'm sorry, not a blog. We talked about it. See, I'm not even up to speed, so
it's all right.
Hey, everybody! I'm Lori Rudiman. What are you doing? Working? Nah, you're listening to a podcast about work, and that barely counts. So while you're at it, check out my show, Punk Rock HR, now on the Work Defined Network. We chat with smart people about work, power, politics, and money. Are we succeeding? Are we fixing work? Probably not. Work still sucks, but tune in for some fun, a little nonsense, and a fresh take on how to fix work once and for all.
All right.
So you guys, I'm really excited about this conversation.
Yes.
And we heard in our survey last year that payroll was the next great frontier for transformation.
Yep.
And I mean, everything that you guys have been talking about has transformation written all over it.
Yeah.
And I love that it's close to the end user transformation instead of transformation with a big T that is, life altering. I love what Nayamo is doing with, doing payroll, anytime payroll. I think that's fantastic to help those frontline payroll resources.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me about that and some of the things from your survey, Susan, that pointed to the fact that, up to 50% of folks are looking at a change in their payroll, right? And a few other areas that we've talked about a few times on this show, is just the payroll oftentimes gets left behind in the beginning because it's terrifying. It's terrifying to touch and to
if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah.
Well, exactly. And payroll folks are, they are really committed to making sure that their payroll is accurate and timely. And they don't want to attract any attention. And so change is really hard for my payroll colleagues.
Oh yeah. Well, they're risk adverse, right? That's their job, really. If you really boil it down to what it really is at the bottom line, it's risk management. They're right. Managing risk for the business, and they have to. There's no close enough. It's got to be perfect, right? Or else there's implications. So yeah,
exactly. Isn't that like the perfect way, like to start with payroll and then talk about change management? Because we're talking about it with a group that has like zero tolerance for failure, right? And who has to get it right? Do or die.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'd love to have a payroll lead develop a change management plan for one of my projects. I think that would be phenomenal. That would become like the textbook change management plan for every other project going forward, because my payroll folks would think of every single possible scenario and stakeholder group that would need to be touched and engaged and brought along on the journey.
That's interesting that you say that, Susan, because think about, and Julie, I think we might have talked about this, but think about how much COVID put payroll, BCP, business continuity and data recovery plans to the test, the ultimate test, right? And you're either ready or you weren't. And I think that those that weren't found that out pretty quickly and realized they're at a competitive disadvantage if they continue to have this non-resilient, unprepared, non-agile payroll in front of them as their sort of shoes, if you will. It's just not going to make it, Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is that really tossed a different light on business case and executive approval of projects and payroll, because just the idea, the notion that it could be a complete fail, right? If you don't upgrade or if you have a dying system, whereas it's just always been so hard to get funding passed. There's seldom a case for savings when you're on some legacy thing that's especially heart monitor.
Especially what has historically been a cost center, right?
Yeah.
Or viewed as one.
And it's not sexy. Nobody in sales wants to talk about, payroll systems. They all want to talk about analytics and workforce planning.
Pete instead is determined to make payroll sexy.
I'm trying my hardest.
Well, if anybody can do it, I believe it's going to be Pete.
Well, look, it doesn't have to be sexy. It just has to be equal, right? You can't just sort of diminish. Like I've been telling people, I feel like payroll is sort of like the wheels on a race car, right? You can have the best car, the best technology, the best talent, right? The best driver, all of the best data that tells you what the track's going to do and all this, that, and the other thing. But if you've got crappy wheels, it's not going to go around the corners. It's not going to handle. It's not going to be agile. And I think payroll is sort of the wheels, right? The vehicle that is going to carry the organization. And you can go invest in all the best human capital and talent and DE&IB and all this stuff and data and insights and talent intelligence, then screw their pay up and then watch it all crumble down, right?
I love that analogy.
It's just not going to work. So yeah, you want to be agile, you want to go fast, you got to have payroll underneath you.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
It is. It is.
So in case folks can't tell, we're determined to talk about change
management
today in the context of HR and payroll. And so we're already well down that path.
Yeah.
I thought though, like for me, when I think about this topic, and I'm so excited, Susan, that you could join us and lend some expertise in this space and maybe corroborate some of the things, for me, change management and transformation has been that line item that gets scratched out when you get your senior level approvals and they need to shed $1 million right off of the business case.
Yep.
And so it's like you always put it in, you're dead in the water if you don't put it in, but it always gets dragged out. And more people now are actually talking about change management and recognizing the importance of change management. And so it's really a thing, right?
Yeah, it really is a thing. And it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a group yesterday, and we were chatting about this very thing, about how change management and transformation can drive a huge return on investment. And it's as if it's an assumed that that's going to be the first thing to go from a proposal or from an engagement. And I really challenge my HR and payroll colleagues to fight to keep change and transformation in the budget and in the scope for these large technology transformations. We know from the research that a large reason that transformation efforts don't succeed is that they didn't have adequate change management. And if you think about it and boil it down to brass tacks, essentially we're trying to get people to behave differently when we think about change and transformation. And our technology or the event is a lever. But at the end of the day, if we can't get people to behave differently and they go back to their old ways of doing things and they build workarounds for doing the things that they know how to do in the new system, then did we really get any return on our investment? And so I would say that the business case for change management is not hard to build. And I want to challenge my HR colleagues and my payroll colleagues to not let that be the first thing that hits the cutting room floor.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And I would say even further, it's important to remember that transformation is not just technology. It's not putting in technology and saying, oh, we're good. It's human. And the success of it is incredibly based on human success. And I think that's where the change, you have to provide that, right? If you really want to be successful.
Right.
Yeah, carry that analogy forward, if change management also is not just communications, right? So it's not the person that you tag from marketing or from PMO or from where your change management program that just drafts the emails and then the launch notices, right? There's so much more than that.
Yes.
Right. How many different ways can I tell you that something is changing? And how many different ways can that fail?
So Susan, I've seen a number of different persons at the helm of this, but when you start focusing in on the change management and the effort, resourcing wise, who are you finding is most typically leading the charge in the client organization for change?
It is varied across the organization. The most natural place to look in most organizations is in the HR function. And the reason for that is that the HR leaders, the HR practitioners are the ones who typically know the organization the best. They know the people in the organization, and change management is all about the people side of a transformation. So many times I see this coming out of the HR function, but I have seen change practitioners come from across the organization. Mm-hmm. And I would say that the key things to look for in a change practitioner is someone who is very influential in the organization. So they're people who know how the organization works. They know where the potholes are in the organization. They know who the power brokers are in the organization. They've probably been around a while and have seen initiatives come and go. and they probably got some great lessons learned. And I've seen these resources come out of operations, from the business side, and those are folks who can speak the language of the business, along with teaching them how to speak the language of change. So I love it when my HR practitioners are part of my change team. And I get really excited when my change team comes from from other places in the organization. Marketing folks are usually really great at change, and I've even had folks come out of my finance organizations and be very successful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I know some of the part around job aids and, like changing behavior, I feel like I see when you get to that portion anyways and start thinking that concretely, there's usually a link to training, right? And a link to behavioral changes, aids, how, like you said, how many ways can you tell somebody that we're going to change?
What if I told you that your boss skydives, Tim in marketing is a magician, and Sam in accounting does sums in his head while standing on his hands? Seeing sides of the people you work with but never see, sides that inform and inspire their work and that can inspire yours, is what The Talent Show is all about. Email me, Tom Alexander, host of The Talent Show, at talentshow@backboneinc.com and show us what you got. I look forward to seeing you on The Talent Show.
This is William Tincup, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Indeed FutureWorks. Ryan and I attended the conference last year, and we created a limited series for Indeed where we talked to their customers. Great stories around TA and how they use Indeed to the max. So check it out. It's just Indeed FutureWorks 2024. You could search for it wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks.
Right. You have to, we always approach change from a holistic perspective. So we want to define pretty quickly what the critical success factors are for a change, whatever that is, whether it's, an acquisition or a technology implementation or a product launch. We want to define what those critical success factors are, and those become the guidepost for everything that we do in the change management function. So when we're designing communications, when we're building training materials, and when we're planning employee and leader engagement activities to help them see what it looks like to operate in a different way. And we use those success factors in some way in every piece of collateral or every activity that we do. And one of the things that our design teams have found is that if they use those guiding principles in their design sessions, when they get to a sticky or difficult decision that they have to make, if they look at their critical success factors, then those decisions become pretty easy.
Susan, sorry, go ahead, Julie.
I was just going to say, what's the next click down from there, right? So I love the goalposts, right? And the alignment to make sure that you're focusing on and have all the things in line that are driving you toward your objectives. But what about when you have to pick and choose or prioritize between and among those things, whether that's because of resource constraints or just timeline constraints? How are you finding folks are prioritizing?
Yeah, it comes back to impact. So where am I going to get the biggest bang for my effort? If I have to trim scope, or if I have to choose who I'm going to engage in an activity, I want to make sure that I am having the most impact possible in an activity. So we want to say that all stakeholders are created equal, but we know they're not. So if we have a limited change budget, we want to focus our efforts on the leadership and the middle management layer, because those are the folks who are going to make or break the success of the change. And primarily those middle managers are the ones who are the most critical, because if we don't focus on them, they're not going to know how to operate differently. And they're not going to be able to lead their teams through operating differently. And they're not going to know at an individual level how to operate differently.
So, Susan, how often do you, because I guess I'm going to speak to my experience as a practitioner, which it feels like was years ago now. It didn't feel like when I was in doing this, that there was a lot of this skill in the HR community, that the change management was sort of reactive, I feel like, in a lot of ways. Whereas now, do you find that you're reskilling HR sometimes, or do you find that they already have some of these skills and it's a matter of really just coaching them towards the latest leading practice and getting them on the right path?
I am seeing more of this skill set, and it may not sit inside the HR function. So it may sit in an innovation center.
Yeah.
It might sit in a program management office. A lot of times, change resources are attached to a PMO or a project management office, like special projects.
Right.
Because the skill set is it is hard to find, and if the resources get buried in HR, then they get deployed in other ways.
Right.
And so sometimes they're not available to the organization to do that change work. So in a PMO innovation, and sometimes they sit in a chief of staff organization inside the organization. And I would say that we are doing a better job of building the change management skills, particularly organizations that are forward thinking. And we know that change is happening at a pace that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And that, organization, I was reading something the other day that, in 2016, the average number of changes that happened inside the organization was 2 or 3, and it's up to 10 now.
Wow.
So, and I don't think that's because we're like double counting. I think there's just a lot of change in the organization.
Right.
So a forward-thinking organization that wants to build that change management capability and build that muscle internally will sometimes take one of those enterprise-wide programs that they have to execute on, and that has high visibility, and they will pick a change team, to make it a developmental opportunity for a small group of employees, and take them through the change process on an engagement, and teach them how to be change managers. And we've had huge success in doing that.
Yeah.
With helping our clients learn how to do change.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
How to be successful.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those skills that it's going to be very valuable now and in the future, certainly as we see more and more of the, AI taking over the day-to-day that we do. You're going to need more of these creativity, sort of, communication, leadership, negotiation, change management. I think all of that's going to be even more and more valuable. So
yeah, and
more part of the HR role.
Yeah, storytelling is part of that. And I think that's one of the things that's becoming more and more apparent to us as we're working through change initiatives is, helping individuals learn how to tell the story. So what's changing? Why is it changing? When is it changing? What's in it for me? What's in it for you? And is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And where does it fit in the along the spectrum in helping the organization achieve its goals and objectives?
Yeah, very good.
So you were talking, Susan, about then and now, right? And then we started talking a little bit about the future. And there's a topic that I know you and I both share a passion for. We've touched on it briefly just in thinking about doing this conversation together. And so I can't wait to get to it. So here we go. I'm going there. We had a lot of change thrust upon us in COVID, and now we're working in a hybrid workforce. A lot more folks are still working from home, and companies are really struggling with how to make that happen. To me, it's always struck me that change management, when you're talking about things how to do or things that you've done and you're just deploying them in a different delivery model from home, let's say, is one thing. But now we're in an environment where we have organizations that are trying to change their delivery model from what people used to do. Then they figured out how to do it from home to no, don't do that. Do something different, right?
Yeah.
And actually, so I can't wait to hear what you're seeing and what you're doing as clients start to tackle real change in their delivery model in this hybrid work from home or virtual blended office arrangements. What are people doing, and how do we hear successes and challenges out of that we can build on?
Yeah, so I see more challenge than success right now. I think we're still learning how to operate in this hybrid model, and how to be effective with project delivery and with change management. From a tactical perspective, it creates um, more stakeholder groups and different kinds of stakeholder groups. So my work from home team of managers and my work from home team of frontline employees and maybe even some executives are going to need a different level of change engagement than those who are in the office. And so it's like if you had 10 stakeholder groups pre-COVID, now you've got at least 20, because you've got some that are in the office and some that are at home. And then you may even have another blend of those who are hybrid, who spend some time in the office and some time in their home office. It makes the change work much more complex. And the tactics that we deployed pre-COVID don't work as well. So, having a communication plan that is cascade, the traditional cascade from the CEO to his or her direct reports to the next level down, and then to the frontline employees, that worked pretty well when everybody was in an office, looking at their laptops or their computers on a daily or hourly basis. Doesn't really work that well in a hybrid or a fully remote situation. So we have to find different ways to engage those audiences. So your change team has a bigger job to do in finding ways that are already working to engage those hybrid practitioners, and finding the time and getting the headspace to be able to tag on to those things. So if there's an all hands meeting that happens on a weekly basis where they bring everybody together in a virtual situation, having your change practitioners participating in that is important when it might not have been so important in the past. And I'm a huge fan of having some face-to-face time. I've seen the the outcome of when there is no FaceTime, when everything is fully remote, and there's so much that gets lost in translation. And so much of change is about understanding behaviors and understanding the nonverbals that come across or don't come across when you're in a virtual environment. So I would encourage my colleagues out there who are planning projects and planning engagements to add in some time for people to be together and be on site together. Even my global projects, I know that when COVID happened, the budgets were they went away for travel, and they've not come back. But I would encourage, particularly on large complex projects where you've got geographic dispersion, that there has to be some on-site time, and there has to be some face-to-face time to build trust and build relationships, and to ferret out and understand where there may be some resistance that we need to take care of.
Yeah, it's a great point.
That makes so much sense. The other thing that gets tossed into the mix, I think, especially in today's HR transformation projects, is skills, precisely, and that is, you might actually be changing the nature of the role or the skill set that's involved, and the folks who are in a particular role or have a certain set of duties today may be well adapted for the new skills or the new approach, or they may be, they may be not so well adapted and need a little, some help and some coaching in that space. Are you seeing any cool stories about skills and underlying requirements changing, not just communicating what the change is?
Hey everybody, Tim Sackett, host of HR Famous, a new podcast on the Work Defined Network. Am I famous? No, I'm HR famous. My wife says I'm a micro celebrity and 13 HR ladies around the world want their picture with me, which I think is funny. So, hey, what do we talk about on the pod? We talk about all the dumb stuff we do in HR in any given day, week, month, and we have fun with it, and we have some great guests. Come check us out. We're not famous. We're HR famous.
Yeah. So most of the time on these enterprise-wide projects, the organizational structure ends up changing to some degree, and the roles and responsibilities, the skills needed change. And it's interesting when we talk about that with our clients at the beginning of a change project, they look at us with disbelief. Oh no. No, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna do everything we need to do with the same people in the same roles, and we're typically we push back, and then about 6 months after the project is done, we usually get the call saying, you said that things were going to change, and they really have, and the skills that we needed before we went live are different than what we need now. We need more analytic skills. We need more critical thinking skills. We need communication skills that we might not have needed in the past. And so, it's kind of the forward thinking organizations are starting to see that there is a body of work to be done in these transformations that is all about the people that you have in the organization doing the work today, and what do they need in order to be successful in the future. And it might be reskilling or upskilling of your current staff. It may be supplementing your staff with additional resources for a period of time to teach them how to operate and give them new skills. There might be a need to move people to different roles. So if you've got someone who is a really great coder on that mainframe system, we're not going to need that anymore, but we might need them somewhere else. There may be other ways to utilize those resources.
Yeah, it's a great point.
There are people attached to every one of those situations.
It's a human thing.
Yeah. It's one thing to move things, move sticks and boxes on a PowerPoint or on a Visio diagram. It's something totally different to sit with those resources and have those conversations and be, empathetic and compassionate about the changes that need to happen.
Yeah, it's humans, always humans at the root of the transformation. But, it's interesting, Susan, I posted this recently and I got a lot of reaction from it. But I think, when you were talking about some of the dynamics of managing a hybrid workforce, I think there's a skills gap in the C-suites and some of the senior leadership that don't know how to manage these workforces. And I think some of these sweeping all inside the house, all out, all, sort of actions are the result of not really knowing how to manage a hybrid workforce. And I think there's some reskilling that needs to go on there too.
Oh yeah, it's hard. And leaders who have been able to hide behind having everybody in house all the time, suddenly we've been exposed because we haven't been in our offices for the last 3 years,
right?
And strangely enough, things continue to get done. Maybe they don't get done as quickly or as efficiently as we want them to, but we don't have to have a wholesale everybody back in the office to increase our productivity.
Yeah, true.
It's kind of the same robust skill set you look for in a global leader, right? Because just by virtue of the time zones around the world, you have to have somebody that has that muscle, right? To be able to deal with virtual teams. Forever the global scope projects have had, very virtual teams and gotten work done virtually, which has seemed quite foreign to maybe large organizations that, are only doing domestic initiatives. But from a change management perspective, it actually, it always strikes me that not only do you have all of the challenges of change management, but then you multiply that by, some number of different cultural approaches or cultural ears, that have to hear the message and digest the content. And then it just really gets fun, right?
Yeah. With my global projects, I always look for resources in country to help us with making sure that the messages that we're sharing and the engagement activities that we're doing are appropriate for the local audience. And if they're not, then what can we do that is different in the delivery, but gets the same sort of impact. Right. And one of the things that I know Julie was on your list is how big is the change team? How big does your change team need to be?
Yeah.
And I would say it takes a village. You may start with one person or two people on your change team, and by the end of the engagement, you may have a couple hundred people,
right?
Because you want to identify who those change champions are and those influencers, and you want to equip them with all of the tools and all the skills and all of the knowledge that they need to be effective in helping you move the rest of the organization through that crazy fun change curve that we all go through.
Change is such a fascinating topic, but I kind of wanted to then come full circle, Susan, especially since we started out with introductions and with you talking a little bit about the data that Sapient brings forward in the fall at the HR Tech sessions. And I know, you're known for the data and the research that you collect, and wanted to see if you could kind of link data and data insights to the support for change management and the things that are needed in a big HR transformation project. What sorts of connections are you finding there? What kind of data do you think is on the horizon and starting to come into picture here for to help with the change management?
Yeah. So one of the most interesting findings that we stumbled into last year was this correlation between organizations that have a strong change management culture, or they are perceived to be good at change management, and those organizations that think that their HR function is strategic. So one of the things that my HR colleagues are always asking is, I have this seat at the table, and now I need to do HR strategy, and I think I'm strategic. But what does that really look like? And one of the first things that I do with them is talk about, how are you engaged in helping the organization manage change or lead change? And so that finding has been consistent over the years, at least the last 5 years that we've been tracking that particular statistic. Is that high correlation between being perceived as a strategic HR function and having strong change management capabilities. I would also say that there's data in our survey about being outcome focused, and HR organizations that are more outcome focused have a culture of change. And they're the ones who are helping the organization realize that return on investment. So if you are seen as a strategic HR function, you're outcome focused, then you're going to have better success in your transformation efforts. There's a whole section in the white paper write up that goes pretty deep into that. Julie, we might have to have another session.
I know for sure, and I do know as you continue to work in that space, I know you're expanding and actually aspiring to capture more and more. Right, that would be helpful for future transformation clients.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, I think I like those were, we hit on many of the things that I was hoping we were talking on. As you mentioned, Susan, like we could talk all day. Every time we get together, it's an absolute pleasure. We have so many things, that just excite us all the way around. And I think this is a pretty good start to get folks thinking and geared up about their change management and the fact that it really is a thing.
It really is a thing, and I really think I'm going to go out and recruit one of my payroll leads to
really important.
lead a change effort.
Yeah, it's really important stuff.
You're going to find us the poster child of the payroll change management world.
I know.
Susan, is that what
I know.
Yep.
So, Susan, where can everyone connect with you? What's the best way to get in touch, and where can we find you next?
Yeah. So best way to reach us is on our website, sapientinsights.com. You can also reach us on LinkedIn, and you can reach me personally on LinkedIn. You can reach the firm on LinkedIn. We are also on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook.
Yes.
And you will find us. The big show is HR Tech in October. And we will be out and about. We also have our own podcast called the HR Huddle. And Stacy and Cliff do a spilling the tea on HR tech on a biweekly basis. And Terry Zipper hosts the HR We Have a Problem podcast. So we'd love to have folks join us there. And you can reach out to us any way that you want to. We'd be happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. I would second that. Definitely tune into Sapient Insights. The show is great. I was just on it recently with Terry and very, very privileged to do that. And absolutely follow Stacey Harris and Cliff Stevens. They are pros, pro analysts all day. So get great insights over there. So Julie, where can we find you next? Anywhere coming up?
Goodness, I am absolutely happily deep in some client work. That's my favorite place to be.
You coming to Atlanta anytime soon?
I think I may be, and I'll definitely keep you apprised of that.
Cool.
Other than that, I know we got Virtual Congress coming up at some point in time here, and
yes,
a couple of provider sit downs for me. That always helps me when I'm able to get a kind of an advanced heads up from providers that are serving the clients that I might be working with. So that's exciting. And I guess I'll say the last thing that I really is going to shift my focus and attention to is oftentimes when I'm presenting or speaking at conferences, I do that with client co-presenters or practitioner co-presenters, I should say. And so I'm just starting to look forward to some of the fall events. I think things quiet down a little bit here in the summer, and then September and October come back with a vengeance. And so I'll be not only working on client journeys, but also finding those clients that really want to share their journeys with others who are kind of deep in the thick of it.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I have a few things coming up. Obviously, my UKG blog that I talked about, I'll give you a recap on what happened there, what we learned. I will be also at the Virtual Congress coming up. I've got a number of webinars coming up with iSolved and Daily Pay. And of course, look for the Payroll podcast with Nick Day from JGA Recruiting. I was just on that. So it was a really fun conversation. So look for that out there somewhere. And we will certainly hope to see you back here as soon as possible on our next episode. So thanks for joining us, Susan.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.